Welcome to Just Cook It Radio, hosted by Chef Mario Pareca and Bill Alexander. Just Cook It Radio is about food, life, and everything in between. And now, your hosts of Just Cook It Radio, Mario and Bill.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're listening to Just Cook It on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS, and also on FCTV, Channel 77, and at justcookit.tv. I am Mario Pareca. I'm here with Bill Alexander and Mike Sackley across the desk.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
If they're listening to the station right now, they know where they're at.
Well, yeah, that's the whole...
Okay, I just thought I'd ask.
Gotta be technical.
Okay, I mean, don't need to say extra words. You don't need to do that.
People like to hear the sound of my voice. But anyway, the first thing I want to bring up right off the top of the show. Tomorrow, Bill, we have a very special event going on, and I want to remind everyone to please come. Bill and I will be live doing a cooking segment.
I hope.
At the Uniontown Mall for Going Live with FCTV.
Yes.
Our friends Matt and Dave over at Channel 77. So we will be there tomorrow
At 3 o'clock.
3 p.m. Yeah, so come down, say hi, and we will also, courtesy of WMBS, have some giveaways.
Which is kind of cool. So we're marrying our TV and radio lives together tomorrow.
They've been married for quite
We're going to have a
some
little
time.
ceremony and everything, and
Yeah,
we can do it on the stage because
Are you-
we're going to be in front of Dunham Sports at that end of the mall where the Sears end is between Radio Shack and Dunham. So if you're out in the mall and you're noticing that there's a crowd of people at the other end, now you know why.
And if you're looking for something to do, please come down.
Yeah, please come out and say hi. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
This is the first actually live appearance, television-wise, that we've done, you and I together, in a long time. I mean, we were at the colon cancer event.
The Celebrity Chef Cook-Off.
The Celebrity Chef Cook-Off, and we did that in association with TV. But this is really the first thing we've done publicly with them.
Yeah, we did the radio with a few things.
Right, and then we've done the show in studio. But this is the first time
it should be
live
fun.
in public. So it should be interesting.
I'm looking forward to it. And
Are you going to tell us what you're making?
Yes, we're going to tie everything together because, as we said, this is the Thanksgiving season. It's such a...
According to the calendar, it's the Thanksgiving season, but according to TV commercials, it's Christmas already.
Yeah, and that aggravates me a bit.
But does me too.
On our show, since Thanksgiving is such a momentous food holiday, for this season, we are going to celebrate it from now until the big day on the 28th.
Which is kind of cool.
So so every week, if you start with my column every Thursday in the Herald Standard in the food section, I'm going to cover a different food aspect of Thanksgiving. So this past Thursdays, I talked about stuffing. So that's the first thing. We're going to talk about stuffing later on in this program, and we're going to actually
make stuffing or dressing.
That we're going to talk about that too later. It can be either, but we're going to go through it. I talked about it in my column. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. And we're going to be making one of my favorite stuffings.
Really?
It's really a dressing at the mall tomorrow.
Do we want to go into that now, or are we going to wait till the third part of the show?
Well, I'll mention what it is. It's a wild mushroom and roasted shallot stuffing. It's very good. It's very simple to make.
So we're going to have turkey there too, because you can't eat stuffing without turkey.
I'll see what I can do about the turkey. But we'll definitely have stuffing, and we'll have some samples for people if you come out to the mall and to see the show. So this week's all about stuffing, and then it'll be a different item next week, and the following week, and the following week to celebrate Thanksgiving.
That sounds good. It sounds really good. And also... for those of you in the Pittsburgh region and those of you that have watched WQED, I reached out to a friend of mine who has a new program starting Monday night on WQED, Rick Seaback. And he has done programs such as Kennywood Memories, Things That Aren't There Anymore, Pennsylvania Diners, and he's done programs like that. Well, he has another food-related one that deals with the unusual foods in the United States. And I reached out to him yesterday, and we're going to work trying to get him on the program either next week or the week after Thanksgiving.
Sounds good.
So I'm looking really forward to that. And I want to talk to him because one of my favorite programs is Pennsylvania Diners. And I remember a diner in the North Hills in Richland. I don't know if you remember this, but it was the Venus Diner on Route 8 in Richland Township. Across the streets is the Sheets, and then it was where the Richland Mall. Mike's shaking his head. It's
He's
radio
shaking his
Mike.
head yes for
it's
those
radio
of you
Mike.
listening.
They can't hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
They had
Mike is here. We're not just saying that.
They had the best blue plates, and they were really blue plates that they put their breakfast specials on.
The most beautiful color of
Yeah,
blue.
It was a
I've ever
white
seen.
center and had a blue ring around it. So.
The blue plate special.
Yes.
That's cool. I look forward to speaking with Rick and having him on because he's someone that you see on TV quite a lot in the local area.
Yeah, and I mean, I've known him through conversations over the last few years, but this is the first time we'll actually able to talk to him.
If you want to know exactly when he's going to be on, you'll know when we know if you go to our website at justcookit.net.
And it will be also on our with Facebook and also at our Just Cook It page too.
Mm-hmm. So one other thing I want to mention right off the top before we dive into into stuffing and Thanksgiving and all that fun stuff. We need your help, Bill and I. We've been posting it on Facebook.
Okay.
And so I want to just clear up. We have a few different websites. The first one is our website where you can get everything from us. It's justcookit.net. The other one's where you can watch all our videos. That's justcookit.tv. And now we have another website, and we have a special task for all the listeners, for everyone listening. And Mike's going to actually do this right now as I'm saying it. Yes.
Yes, you are.
We need you to go to the website justfollowit.com. Okay?
Like that, just follow it.
Yeah, just like our website, Just Cook It, but justfollowit.com, and it's you can listen to our program there if you miss it. And all you have to do is once you go there, there's a yellow button in the upper right-hand corner that says follow. Hence, just follow it. Click the follow button and give us a follow.
Right.
It'll really help the program. We're trying to reach a broader audience, and that'll help us do that. So we really appreciate it. Again, go to justfollowit.com and click the yellow button in the upper right-hand corner that says follow. Simple as that. And you can also listen to the program there every week. If you miss it, you can go there and listen to it, or you can listen to it at justcookit.net, whichever works for you. But we'd appreciate it if you go to justfollowit.com and click the follow button.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get ourselves on another platform because right now we're on Stitcher and we're on Tuned In, which from what I'm understanding, WMBS is also on Tuned In, but we are the only individual program on Tuned In Western Pennsylvania. So we're trying to open that market up a little bit larger than what we have right now. So if you can help us out, we greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we'll be mentioning that again, and we'll mention it at the mall tomorrow as well. So the first thing we want to talk about, as I said, we're going to talk about stuffing, but something supersedes that this week. Something really big happened.
Supersedes.
Yes.
A 10-cent word. Yeah, there you go.
See, I read the dictionary sometimes. But something...
Isn't it amazing that when you read the dictionary, all the words are in alphabetical order?
That is. Someone really took their time,
it's
and
like
I appreciate
when
that.
people pass away, the obituaries is always in alphabetical order. Isn't that convenient?
And again, it's like you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
We... just on a serious note here, we had a major death in the culinary field this past Tuesday. One of the legends, if you will, legendary chef Charlie Trotter passed away at the age of 54 years old. And he had the Charlie Trotter's restaurant in Chicago, and he was a hugely influential chef, a self-taught chef, was hugely influential in the food world. His books, his TV series that he had on one of the public broadcasting.
Oh, really?
And he was just...
Now I know who you're talking
Yeah.
about. I was going, the name's familiar, but I don't know why, but now I know who you're talking about.
So I just want to realize, put that out there and mention that and recognize that because it was a loss of an icon. He actually just closed his restaurant, Charlie Trotter's, recently this past year, and he was going back to school.
Oh, interesting.
Because he went to college for philosophy, and he wanted to go back for more philosophy. And like I said, he was self-taught as a chef, but wildly successful, very influential. He was always at the forefront of innovation. And I used growing up in the kitchen and writing menus, used his cookbooks a lot for inspiration.
That's cool.
And he has a lot of books, not just about cooking, but about excellence in the field and just business-type books because he was so wildly successful business-wise, whereas his vision was to have this restaurant in Chicago. At the time, there was only about 2 restaurants in Chicago that were doing well. And they only did well in one aspect. It was either service or food. He wanted to bring the whole concept together with service, the food, the courses, everything, and have it not only recognized in Chicago, but throughout the country and the world. And he did that, which was amazing. And I've never gotten the chance to eat at his restaurants. I've read most of his books. But they said his restaurants were like symphonies. His courses, his tasting courses. They said it almost felt like he knew where you were going to go after you left his restaurant because his meals would kind of lead into that.
Oh, really?
Stuff.
That's cool. That is. It's really cool.
So he was very influential, and it's a sad loss for the culinary world. So I just wanted to mention that at the top of the program.
That is really sad.
Yeah. But moving forward now to Thanksgiving, now that we mentioned that.
Do you want to do that or do you want to take our first break?
let's take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk all things Thanksgiving from now to the rest of the show. We're going to throw out the numbers so you can call in and give us your Thanksgiving stories and ask questions and talk to us. So don't touch that radio dial. Just Cook It will be back right after these words from our great sponsors. And Just Cook It is being served up to you today by the Big Barn Country Store and Deli, by Pareca Chiropractic Center, Inc., by 4th Street Barbecue, by the Herald Standard, and on FCTV by Phil Gianetti Motors.
And you're watching Just Cook It on Fayette TV, Channel 77, and you're listening to Just Cook It Radio here on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS. Phil Gianetti Motors at 656 National Pike East in Brownsville is a proud sponsor of programming on FCTV. Phil Gianetti Motors providing quality vehicles for 45 years. If you're looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle, give Phil Gianetti's a call at 724-785-6800 or stop by their website, philgianettymotors.com.
Thank you for watching Just Cook It Radio right here on Channel 77. I am Mario Pareca.
And I'm Bill Alexander. If you like what you've seen so far, you can watch the program in its entirety at justcookit.tv for food, life, and everything in between.
Good to have you back. You're listening to Just Cook It on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS, and also on FCTV Channel 77, and at justcookit.tv. I'm Mario Pareca, again here with Bill Alexander and Mike Sackley. And I want to throw out the phone numbers before we get into it, so you can call in and join the program, join the conversation. The numbers locally, 724-438-4593. We'll get you right here to the studio. And if you're listening on the internet or online and you want to call in toll free, 855-590-0590. Those are the numbers. Give us a buzz and we can talk about whatever you like.
I'm noticing the hand signals aren't as flamboyant as they used to be since I brought that up. I mean, it's just a
true.
point.
Yeah,
it's much calmer.
It's that / Zombie Saturday for me. So. A little bit of both.
You do look a little more awake this week than you did last. I will say that.
Football's almost over.
It's almost there. Yeah.
Almost over.
Wow, went by fast.
You got to do the Franklin Regional West Mifflin game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That must have been a barn burner.
It was supposed to be like 50 points scored, and they scored 26 total.
Oh wow.
14 to 12. Yeah.
Wow, they held them.
That was crazy.
What was that? What was the score?
14 to 12.
Wow, that was underperformed what
Didn't
they
expect
expected.
that.
Yeah,
No.
I was going to say.
So.
Okay, so the next thing, I really wasn't listening to what you're saying, I'll be honest. Because Bill threw me a curveball at the break.
I'm used to that.
I wanted to talk about Thanksgiving, but Bill really wants to talk about trans fats and the new development, so we're going to talk about that first. This is just off the cuff.
But I'm thinking about it, and it's the holiday season. And a lot of the stuff you eat that you buy for holiday would have the trans fats in them.
Yes.
And the whole thing is that the FDA finally is telling us, even though you and I have talked about this in the past, that trans fats are now bad.
Yes, it is.
It's like
trans fats are bad.
what?
Let's say is are.
It's not like it's something new that happened on Monday. This has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, what took them so long?
Money.
Money? Is it really? You really think it is?
Basically, I mean, trans fats, which are, they're widely considered the worst kind of fat for your heart, even worse than saturated fat. Basically, what a trans fat is when you add hydrogen to vegetable oil to make it more solid. So they're often called, and you'll see this on ingredient labels, partially hydrogenated oils. Really not good for you. They're used in processed foods and to improve texture, shelf life, or flavor of the foods. And so they've been gradually being reduced by different states. I believe California was the first one when Governor Schwarzenegger was in office, was the first one to ban them. And now it looks like the FDA is following suit and going to ban them, which I think is a good thing.
Okay.
So
because every time they show this, and I hate to say it because I'm thinking you're together with family, you're doing breakfast, you're doing the whole kit and caboodle for Thanksgiving, the holiday season, and the one thing they always show in the news story are donuts. Mm-hmm. They always show Krispy Kreme donuts in the story. Mm-hmm. And it just crushes me. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of it is, I don't believe getting rid of them is really going to change a lot to the product. So, I mean, other than making them not as bad for you. So, I don't think it's going to be a huge, dramatic change for everyone. But it is a threat to people's health. Then here the FDA, it says here in this article, will require the food industry to gradually phase out all trans fats, saying they are a threat to people's health. Commissioner Margaret Hamburg said the move could prevent 20,000 heart attacks a year and 7,000 deaths.
Which is a good thing. And they said in the story I saw yesterday that McDonald's has removed trans fats from everything on their menu, which I thought was interesting because I didn't realize they did that. But the other thing is, too, is it going to cost us more to buy the products that we enjoy eating because they're taking the trans fats out?
I can't answer that right now, to be honest with you, because I need to do more
research.
But because again, this is just an off-the-cuff conversation that I really wasn't planning on. I wanted to do all things Thanksgiving today.
I surprised him.
But yeah. So it's one of those things. And in the long run, to me personally, if it does cost a little more, I would rather pay a little more and not eat the trans fats.
Right.
Hence why I like to eat organic as much as possible, and I like to really watch what I eat. And that's the thing. We talked about Kraft macaroni and cheese last week.
Yes.
Well, it was brought to my attention that, like we said, the dyes and things in Europe, they don't use them.
Right.
They're banned. And Kraft offers the same organic macaroni and cheese in Europe as they do here. In Europe, it's about 10 cents extra a box for the macaroni and cheese. Here, it's like over $1 more a box.
I wonder why.
So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Why not switch everything over to organic altogether?
Yeah, it would make
and if
more
you make a
sense.
10-cent raise across the board, so be it. But it would be better for you.
It'd be better for you.
And instead of making them so darn expensive here to eat organic, and that, I'm sure a lot of families would go the organic route and would want to eat better if they could afford to.
That's
been a huge thing.
One
with
of the
organics.
people that follow us on Facebook, we were talking about Oreos a couple weeks back, and we started to notice that in her comment, as she told her child, is that those types of food are marketed to a certain economic class of people.
Yeah, a certain demographic.
Right. And it's really interesting because you start seeing it because some people can afford to buy the organic and everything else, but most people really can't. So they're stuck buying this stuff that is not good for them, and that's one of the reasons why we're creating the health problem that we are in the United States.
Yeah. And I think, banning some of this stuff is the first step towards
in the right direction.
Progress, yeah. I mean, how far will it get? Probably not very because of the lobbyists, but...
And I know with the guys at the Buy Local Network, Bob Junk and those guys, they've been trying to get fresh produce and stuff into lower income people's hands by doing their farmers markets and stuff like that to make it it is a little bit more expensive, but it's fresh. You know where it's come from. You know who's producing it.
Right.
And I think that's what's really important. It's not that you can buy it from a box on a shelf. It's that you can actually go get it and make something with it.
At the end of the day, it's all about doing your due diligence and knowing the value. Is the value high enough to spend a few extra dollars for something that's a little better for you?
Which interesting, and now coming back the full loop, we tie into Thanksgiving whenever you start planning that menu.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff you should be buying is the product before it's processed, the actual fruit, the vegetables, and the cranberries, the yams, whatever you're doing for Thanksgiving instead of buying it out of a can.
Right, and the way that I see it is, a lot of that stuff, a lot of the canned goods and the boxed goods and the things like that, what makes them attractive is convenience.
Right.
I mean, when you get a box stuffing, you don't have to do a lot to it to make stuffing out of it. But it's so easy to just buy bread and make stuffing yourself.
And the other thing is, too, is that for years, I thought cranberries grew in a can. Because when my mother would prepare for Thanksgiving, that was her mold. It was the can, and she'd slice it. That's the way it looked.
Yeah, and Thanksgiving's one of those things you're going to be cooking anyway. And you're going to be cooking a lot, so you might as well just take the time and do it right.
Oh, I agree with you.
It tastes so much better that way. When you make it, you know what's in it. You do the proper techniques to roast your bird, make your own stuffing. You make you cook real potatoes and rice them and.
That drives my wife crazy.
And powdered potatoes?
No, I can't make mashed potatoes, real mashed potatoes. Because I've even gone on Facebook going, help, what do I do? When we first started doing this show, I didn't know how much milk. I mean, I boiled the potatoes, did everything I could and everything else, and they just looked like a runny mess.
Are you saying we need to make mashed potatoes on the air next week?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like them in the box, though. That was my thing growing up. my mother, I was a child of convenience. It was what was in the box, you made it, and everything else. And I call my wife whenever we do dinner because I get it started most of the time. And she goes, well, make mashed potatoes. I said, I get to use the box, don't I? She goes, no. Peel 6 potatoes, put them in the pot, and I'll finish them when I get home. I said, okay.
So we're going to have to make mashed potatoes, and we'll do
that. Sounds like
we'll
fun.
Into that next week.
Okay.
And we'll do it the right way. We're not going to do it from a box.
Do I have to peel them? Or
You're going to have to peel them. We'll peel them together. And
bloody fingers because of that. It made a little red potatoes.
We'll peel them, we'll cut them, and I'm going to show you the way I make them.
Can you tell me the difference between mashed potatoes and smashed potatoes?
Yes. Mashed potato. Well, it's just they're words, but to me,
no, really,
yeah,
one has an S and one doesn't.
It's semantics,
okay.
But to me, mashed potatoes are when you peel the potatoes, you cook them, and you mash them.
Right.
Where smashed potatoes, you cook the potatoes whole with the skins on.
See, I like those.
And like the little red potatoes,
yes.
The new potatoes, and you mash them, skins and all. Those are smashed. You just smash them. You're not really mixing them and making a creamy mashed potato. I prefer mashed potatoes.
See, I like both. I'm a potato person.
Yeah.
I like
Potato Head.
Yes, thank you very much. I've been referenced that a few times, especially now with the haircut that I got for tomorrow. Got to take that hat off. That I got for tomorrow because it's really short now.
Good, I got a haircut too.
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
But I just I'm gonna put you on hold right now, Bill, because next week we'll talk all about mashed potatoes.
Okay.
So I don't want to get into too much. I want to talk about stuffing this week. We've been trying to put it off.
I am driving this program everywhere except where you want it to be.
That's okay. It's fun. We're having a good time. But
As I
next
said,
week will be all about mashed potatoes, and we'll even make mashed potatoes.
The best part of the whole thing is we don't talk about this before we come in.
We don't. That's what's fun.
That's why we're all over the place.
That's what makes it interesting. Like, it's fun. And if you want to call us and talk about stuffing, mashed potatoes, whatever, again, 724-438-4593 or 855-590-0590.
Now, when you make your mashed potatoes, and my wife did this, and I never knew that there was this vegetable called a parsnip.
Yes.
Have you mixed your parsnips into mashed potatoes?
I have,
before?
and they're very good.
I love those.
Yeah, they're very good. Parsnips are a root vegetable.
Right.
And we can talk more about those in the
next
upcoming
week.
weeks. With next week's going to be mashed potatoes, and then we'll move in the direction. Of course, we'll have to cover turkey at some point.
Yeah.
And we'll have to cover like sides, like vegetables.
We're going to have to do that next week. We don't have that much more time before Thanksgiving.
We have like 3 weeks, so
Good
we'll
luck.
get there. But so what we're going to talk about today is stuffing.
Yes, stuffing.
And so stuffing versus dressing, that's a question you asked me earlier in the program, something I want to address. What I was always taught was that stuffing is when you actually stuff it inside the cavity of the bird and cook it that way, and dressing is when you cook it on the side. Dressing actually comes from the motherland, from England.
Oh, really?
That's what they call it,
that would
dressing.
make sense.
I believe it's the National Turkey Association. I think I listed in my column there is such a thing. They say that they're used interchangeably, but I beg to differ. They're not. Stuffing is stuffed in the bird. Dressing is dressed on the side.
And I agree with that.
And there's a big, I wouldn't say controversy about the two, which one you should do, which one tastes better, which one's better. I always do dressing. I don't do stuffing. The FDA, or the USDA, I should say, not the FDA, the USDA says or tries to wane people away from stuffing because there are some health concerns there. Reason being, stuffing and the bird itself are done at 2 different temperatures. And the stuffing, when you put a bird in the oven, it cooks from the outside in. So the stuffing being at the very most center of the bird is going to cook last. So the meat can be done, the stuffing not, and if you cook it to where the stuffing's done, you're going to end up with a dry bird.
Turkey, yep.
If you pull it out when the turkey is done, the stuffing's not going to be cooked, and then you're going to have some
mushy.
issues. Yeah, and it's such a big pain in the butt because
no pun intended.
No pun intended. You have to scoop. If you pull the bird out of the oven when it's done and the stuffing's still not done, and stuffing, by the way, has to reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit to be done. You have to scoop all that stuffing out of the cavity of the bird, put it in another dish anyway, and finish it in the oven.
True.
As opposed to where you could have just put it in on the side to begin with. Now, the argument people are going to give me is, if you don't cook it in the bird, you don't get those juices and the flavors, and that's baloney. It really is, because you cook your bird off, when you cook your bird, you get those juices anyway from the pan. You can add those right into your stuffing, and there's your flavor.
Right.
And you don't even, what we're going to make tomorrow, we're going to make my wild mushroom and roasted shallot stuffing. You don't even need those pan juices for it to be delicious, and you're going to see that.
Right. We do stuffing, or we do dressing, excuse me. And I've it's a science to make a very good dressing. It's not hard. It's just that it's just different, and a lot of people aren't familiar with it because, again, like you said, they think that you have to put it in the bird because you want it moist, and you want it. And I hate it when it's that way because it's all gummy, it's all sticky, and it's not done.
No.
But yet a dressing, especially the one my wife makes, is wonderful. Is that it's because of the way it's being prepared, and everything is mixed, everything is done well, and it's a nice addition to that turkey on the side of the plate.
Right. And the way that the best dressing that you can have and the way you want it to come out is you want that crispy toasted top and that moist
Bottom.
that moist inside. So now you're getting a textural contrast as well. You're getting the crispy and you're getting the flavorful and the moist from all the stock that it soaks up or the pan juices that you put in there that it soaks up. And it's really, really, it's delicious because it's got that balance. And the thing is, too, with the dressing, you can add almost anything you want to it flavor-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make it with any type of bread you want. You can make it with cornbread. You can make it with sourdough. You can make it with white bread. So you can make it with one of my favorites, which is challah, which is a nice soft bread, or even a brioche. Now, the softer breads get a little tough because you don't want them to be gummy. So
Right.
you have to treat them a little different than you do
Now,
like
have
a
you ever,
sourdough.
when you make yours, depending on what type, do you buy the breadcrumbs that are already prepared? Because I know you can go into a store and buy the cubes that are they're dried and everything. Or do you dry your own?
I dry my own.
Oh, yeah.
I buy the bread in the loaf, and then I
Okay.
dice it. And you can take those cubes and you can do a lot of different things with them, and that's what I like the freedom to do. But you do need your bread when you're making a dressing. You want your bread to be either toasted or dry,
Right.
Because what it's going to do when you do that, it's going to hold its shape, and it's going to absorb more liquid. When you think about when you make bread pudding, you make a custard, and you take your dried bread and you pour your custard over the bread. And if the bread's not dry, it's not going to suck up as much of that custard. Same thing with the dressing, except instead of using cream, you're going to use stock.
Right.
That's the difference between bread pudding and stuffing or
Basically,
dressing.
what you're doing is you're rehydrating the
Exactly.
bread, but it's grabbing in that moisture.
Right.
Because when my wife does it, and this is her mother's recipe, they buy a certain brand of the bread that's already cubed, and it's. I mean, they're everywhere, and they buy unseasoned, and then they go from there instead of toasting the bread and cutting it and everything else. So.
Well, the thing of it is, again, if you don't toast your bread or you don't dry it, and say you just use the soft bread right from the bag, it's going to suck up some of the moisture, not as much, but it'll suck some up, but then it'll be all gummy, like you said. It'll just kind of like fall apart and be loose because it won't have that structure to it.
Yeah.
So what I actually do, and I'm not going to be able to show this tomorrow just because of time constraints, but I'll tell you now on the air, and then I will reiterate it again tomorrow if you come to the mall. I take my bread and I cube it, and then I actually mix it in with some softened butter. And then I put that in the oven and toast it. It takes about a half an hour at 300 degrees. And it's not going to get brown, but it's going to get crispy, but it's also going to absorb that extra flavor and richness of the butter. And then I use those croutons, so to speak. And
that was the word I was looking for, croutons.
Yes.
I could not think of that word. That's what she buys. She buys the bagged croutons.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And I was at the supermarket yesterday, and boy, did they have a ton of those.
Yes. In certain parts of the area, the region, I mean, because we usually go away for Thanksgiving, is that they don't have the croutons the way we have them up here. And I don't know if it's because the bakeries are up here, like Stroman's and Saloni's and stuff like that. And it makes it kind of interesting that you take the stuff with you when you go away.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you mean those bagged croutons, you just can't find them
You
anymore?
can now, but years ago, it was difficult. Because I guess in certain parts of the country, either they don't do it or we're not looking in the right places. So I think it's kind of interesting.
But, so stuffing versus dressing we covered. And if you ask me which one to make, I'm always going to say dressing. One of my biggest pet peeves, one of the things that I really do not like are the pre-stuffed birds that you can buy.
You can buy a bird that's pre-stuffed?
You can buy
I didn't know
turkeys
that.
that are already stuffed. And just all you have to do is throw them in the oven. And it's one of those things that it annoys me, just like the pop-up timers in the turkeys. I don't like those either. And that's my number one tip for making stuffing, dressing, turkey, whatever.
Yeah.
Get an instant read thermometer.
Yeah.
They're a couple dollars. They have them at the local grocery stores. They have them at the locals.
They
pretty much
actually
any
have them at
local
the hardware
kitchen
store,
stores.
to be honest with you. Yeah.
Get an instant read thermometer. and use that. They say that now here's another thing too. They say whole birds 180 degrees,
Right.
and you want to temp them between the thigh and the leg,
Right.
because that's the dark meat. That's the last place to cook, and we'll cover that more when we talk about turkey. But stuffing dressing 165 degrees.
Okay.
Pop your thermometer in the center. When it reads 165, pull it out. It's done. Let it rest for 10 minutes or so at room temperature, and it's good to go. Now here's my question to you, Bill. When you have your stuffing or dressing,
It's dressing.
When you have your dressing, do you cut it into squares and serve it that way, or do you just scoop right out of it?
Scoop it out.
Okay.
And she makes it in a baking dish, and then the whole idea is you scoop it and you put it in the bowl anyhow, so it breaks everything apart. So I mean, I could see cutting it in squares and serving it that way, but no, it's done that.
You can do it either way. I was just curious how you do it. I've done it both.
My wife's, and I rave about my wife's dressing, is because they love the turkey, don't get me wrong, but the dressing is the first thing to go.
That's
and she actually has to make a double batch of dressing for everybody, because if everybody doesn't get that right amount of dressing, there will be complaining at the table.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That's why I chose to cover it first. And it looks like next week we'll do mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes.
But that's your favorite, the mashed potatoes.
I like the whole thing for Thanksgiving. I wish we had more weeks. We should have started in October, because we could start with the pies and then working all the way down to it. But if you think about it, we can carry this conversation all the way through December, because we have Christmas, and a lot of the stuff we eat for Thanksgiving, we also eat on Christmas too. So we can tie everything together.
Yeah. Do you do turkey for Christmas too? You do? Okay.
Yeah.
We don't, just because we just had it for Thanksgiving.
We love turkey.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not bad for you either. I mean, if you get a good one and you prepare it right, I love turkey.
Yeah.
I actually hate to say this, don't tell my family members, because we're not allowed to have turkey in the month of September, October, or November until we go have Thanksgiving dinner. I had turkey on Monday night. Made a turkey breast. It was actually wonderful.
You let the cat out of the bag on that one.
Yeah, I let the cat. I had to, because I had mashed potatoes on Monday, and didn't make the stuffing though. Didn't make the stuffing.
Now, is roasting the whole bird for you just a Thanksgiving thing, or do you do that throughout the year?
It depends on the mood that my wife's in, because she takes care of the turkey and she takes care of the dressing. It depends on her mood if she does it or not.
Because I was surprised. I was at the supermarket yesterday, like I said, and I was looking at turkeys just to see what they had and what was going on with them, and all they had were breast fronts.
Really?
They didn't have any whole turkeys at the supermarket, and I thought, man, this is really close to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, why don't you have it yet?
Yeah, but they had a ton of frozen breast fronts.
Right.
But I think most people for Thanksgiving want to have the whole bird with the legs and wings and thighs and the whole 9 yards. That's what what we have.
That's
but we always get the all natural turkeys from a farm,
Right.
Local farm, which I think are better. They have more turkey flavor,
Right.
and when you cook, turkeys frozen as opposed to fresh, their times are a
Right.
little different per pound.
Yeah.
But that's how we normally do it. But as far as the dressing goes, I generally do not actually use the pan drippings in my dressing from the turkey.
Why not?
Number one, I usually put them in the oven around relatively at the same
time.
And number two, I like to use those pan drippings to make my gravy.
Okay.
So I use the drippings for the gravy, and then I can make see, the thing about dressing is you can, like I said, you can put any flavors you want in it.
Right.
I've made oyster and chestnut dressing before. I've made, you name it. I've made bacon, leeks before. We're going to do wild mushroom and shallots tomorrow. So you can pick, peppers, onions, pick anything.
Right.
And you can add that into your dressing, different herbs, sage, tarragon, chives. You name it, you can do it, and it'll give you that flavor that you can't really get with your gravy unless you use the pan juices.
Right. And the other thing is, too, and we have to go to break here in just a second, but most people talk about dressing being dry. Most of us cover it with gravy anyhow.
Very
so
true.
It's so again, you want it dry so it sucks all the gravy up, so you get that right gravy to dressing ratio when you eat it.
Mine's not dry.
Yours not dry.
Use that tomorrow. I'll show you how to do it. So make sure you come down to the
Even if it
Uniontown
is
Mall
dry,
tomorrow.
it's with gravy on it.
Come down to the Uniontown Mall tomorrow, 3:00, and I'll show you how to make stuffing.
The mall is going to
How to
smell
make dressing.
wonderful tomorrow.
How to make dressing.
See, even we're doing it. We're flip-flopping.
Yeah, well, when I say stuffing, everyone is. If someone just tunes into the program right now and hears us saying dressing, they might think salads. That's why I want to make sure people know that when we talk about dressing, we're talking about stuffing that's not baked in the bird, but baked on
the side, separately.
in a buttered dish on the side.
Yeah.
So we're going to step away for just a few minutes, and when we come back, don't forget the lines are still open. We'll throw the numbers out when we get back. And don't touch that radio dial. Just Cook It is served up to you today by the Big Barn Country Store and Deli, by Pareca Chiropractic Center, Inc., by 4th Street Barbecue, and by the Herald Standard.
And you're watching Just Cook It on Fayette TV Channel 77, and you're listening to Just Cook It Radio here on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS.
Welcome back. You're listening to Just Cook It on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS, and also on FCTV Channel 77, and at justcookit.tv. I am Mario Pareca here with Bill Alexander and the ever-so-quiet Mike Sackley.
Exactly. Yeah, well, you can tell when he's had long nights. So, question, whenever we're talking about stuffing and dressing, how do you put stuffing in a deep-fried bird?
In a deep-fried bird? I don't know if that's possible.
That'd be really messy.
It's got to be possible. I'd have to play with it, but it's got to be possible. And I found when I was at what you could use, and when I was at the supermarket yesterday, I was looking at all the Thanksgiving goodies that they had out there that they're bringing out now, and they have that big trussing kit with the needles that you can sew your bird. You ever do that?
No.
Neither do I. I've never really seen.
Sounds like too much work to me.
I've trussed chickens before.
Right.
And we actually had to do that for one of our practicals in culinary school. You had to truss the chicken, and which seems more realistic than. I mean, I guess if you really pack your bird in with stuffing, but you don't want to do that. Whenever if you're gonna stuff your bird, I can't stop you. Now, let me tell you how to live your life. But if you want to stuff
well, he can. You just won't listen to him.
If you want to stuff your bird, the correct ratio is 3/4 of a cup of stuffing per pound of turkey, and you want to stuff it loosely so it cooks. So the stuffing cooks.
Yeah, you don't want to pack it in there.
Yeah, you pack it in. It's going to take it that much longer to cook. It's going to get that gummy consistency and texture.
Yeah.
Just not a good thing. So you want to keep it stuffed loosely, and you want to stuff it right before it goes into the oven. You want to mix your stuffing, stuff it, and go right in the oven, all in 3 steps. You don't want to be, letting stuff sit. 'Cause I know a lot of people will actually even stuff their bird the night before, which isn't a good thing to do.
No.
So
salmonella would be your friend.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I'm going through all the stuff, Thanksgiving traditions and stuff like that, and one of them is watching Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving. Okay. And they make their own version of dressing, which is popcorn, peanuts, and I think there's like some other candy pieces in there. Would that classify as the definition of dressing, something you eat on the side of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Sure.
Okay, I don't know. I just want to know.
If Charlie Brown does it, he's been doing it all these years. Who am I to tell him that it's not right? But I'm looking at some of these different stuff. Now, a couple of some stuffings that I forgot to mention are some dressings. Wild rice, you can add to yours, which I've done before with cranberries, bacon, and pecans is one of them. We used to do a dress, or this is actually stuffing because we used to stuff Cornish game hens. And they're so small, there's something you can stuff. And you could actually make this as a dressing on the side, which is why I bring it up. It was orzo, leeks, and Virginia ham.
Oh, that
which
sounds
is very,
good.
very good. So you toast your orzo. First thing you do is you cook your leeks in butter really slowly, and it's called, the correct term for that is melting the leeks. The leeks don't melt, but they kind of sweat and get translucent. Then you add some very finely cut Virginia ham, which gives it a little saltiness. And then you add your orzo and you toast it in the butter, and then you can add your stock.
Right.
And you cook it down. And orzo has some starch in it, so it'll kind of pack together. So you can actually take that and lay it in a buttered dish and either bake it to warm it up and serve it like that, which is really, really good. Cornbread stuffing is another very popular one. That's even in the South. You can add apples to your stuffing. Apples and jalapenos are a very good combination. Let's see. And you want to now, if you're making like an apple stuffing, that's an instance where you can still add the pan drippings, but I would add apple juice.
Okay.
So to give it more of an apple flavor. Another thing that's very Italian, and in this area a lot of people may be able to relate to, is adding sausage to your stuffing.
Yes, I've had that before. I wonder if they'll have that in Brownsville today for the Taste of Italy.
Maybe a taste of Italy, an Italian Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I wasn't invited to, and I lived there. But anyhow,
people in Brownsville. Anyway, when I don't
they
think
got their
that,
votes.
I don't
They're
think that
happy.
Italy
They
celebrates
got what they
Thanksgiving.
wanted from me. Anyhow,
But Canada actually celebrates Thanksgiving on the second week of October, and every year they have the Canadian
that'd be
Thanksgiving.
kind of cool. Have family that lives in Canada,
Uh-huh.
go there, have Thanksgiving, then come back and have Thanksgiving here.
We should celebrate 2 Thanksgivings.
Or actually, if you think about
that.
it, you can have Thanksgiving whenever you want to.
Really, yeah, you can.
At least the meal you can, yeah.
But Thanksgiving is one of the biggest traveled days of the year
Is it
as
really?
well. So yeah, people travel from families get together.
Yeah,
So people
well, yeah.
travel. The biggest bar night of the year to go out to bars is the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's the busiest bar night of the year.
That's so you can get drunk, so you can deal with the family the next day.
As Mike Sackley fist pumps in the corner.
That's exciting. You just perked me up today.
There you go.
That's so you can deal with them the next day.
That's right.
That's exactly why.
So because most people come home for Thanksgiving,
Yes.
and you see people that you don't see a lot
Normally, yeah.
So everyone goes and you come in the day early usually, and Thanksgiving everyone's off, and everyone just
Right.
lounges. You watch football, you eat until you're ready to burst.
Yeah.
And so you go out the night before. You have nothing to do the
That
next
makes
day.
sense.
You go out and you party. You have a good time. Mike will be out.
Yeah.
I'll be out.
Well, in the past, we've done this where when we visit family and that, we take the kids to the local place. They do laser tag, and we play that
That's
the night
fun.
before to get them out of the house. So whenever they're prepping for everything for the next day, like the pies and stuff like that, we're not there bothering them. So, but that's funny. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a big festive occasion.
Yeah. But and this year, what's really odd is, and this is one, that's why a lot of the commercials you're seeing for Christmas so early, is there's only 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas, the shortest time possible in the calendar year.
Yeah.
And everybody is like in this panic mode already because, oh my goodness, I only have 6 weeks. Now it's 5 weeks. And I'm not meaning to stress anybody out there, but it's going to go by really quick.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's late this year.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me about it, think about it, this year has flown. I mean, it has flown by. Our 1-year anniversary on WMBS with the program is December 1st,
Mm-hmm. That's just a few weeks.
which is 3 weeks away, or 2 weeks away.
Is
yeah.
Mike going to get us an anniversary gift?
What?
Oh, my.
I think he should.
Wow.
So really quickly, before we finish the program, we have
We've
just
been
a couple.
feeding him. Why not?
Yeah, he's going to get mashed potatoes next week. Just a couple minutes left, so I want to go over some really quickly. I have about 5 or 6 stuffing facts here that I'll give you before we sign off, just so you know, just so you're educated on
Yeah.
stuffing. 50% of Americans stuff their birds with stuffing or dressing. So let's get that down and everyone make dressing.
Yeah.
Regional differences with stuffing. The South is cornbread is more popular.
Interesting.
White
Which
bread
makes
is more
sense.
common in other parts of the country. And let's see, I'll give you a couple more. Stuffing dates back to the Roman Empire. I bet you didn't know that. Stovetop introduced their stuffing in 1972 and now sells 60 million boxes around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's what my mother still uses.
And there's no evidence to support that stuffing was served at the first Thanksgiving.
Oh, I can believe that.
I don't care. I like it anyway.
It's good.
So thank you for listening. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of Just Cook It. Next week, we'll be making mashed potatoes.
And don't forget TV tomorrow at the Uniontown Mall. We'll be
Yes.
there at 3 o'clock making dressing.
Dressing.
And we'll be there with Matt and Dave, and the guys from Going Live. Should be fun tomorrow, so we'll see you there.
Looking forward to seeing them. So here's your checklist going into next week. Number 1, go to justfollowit.com. Click the follow button in the upper right-hand corner. Number 2, come to the mall tomorrow at 3. Come see us making dressing. And number 3, be sure to tune in next week when we make mashed potatoes live on the air.
Sounds good.
Any parting words, gentlemen?
Goodbye.
See you later.
See you
For
next
Bill
week.
Alexander and Mike Sackley, I'm Mario Pareca. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the Uniontown Mall. You're listening to Just Cook It on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS.
You have been listening to Just Cook It Radio with Mario Pareca and Bill Alexander. For more information on this program and how to download it as a podcast, go to justkookitradio.com. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please call us at 1-855-590-0590.
This has been a $1 Million Baby production.